So, with the strong possibility that Star Wars is going to be a world within Kingdom Hearts 4, I've been thinking about the likelihood that we could be getting a Darth Maul fight. He is without a doubt my favorite character in the franchise, and seeing him, let alone being able to fight him as Sora, would make me scream like a little girl. However, there is just one problem with this. If the trailer is accurate, we will be on the Forest Moon of Endor, which means we are in the Return of the Jedi. So that means that Maul is dead, and we can't fight a dead man. But I still really want to fight Maul, so what is a poor Keyblade Master to do? And that's how I went down this rabbit hole of an unrealistic wish I now have for Kingdom Hearts 4. The trials are a series of tests that Jedi Padawan take on to see if they are ready and worthy to become a Jedi Knight. Sora undertaking these trials would be a pretty realistic and fairly fun side objective that we could do throughout the course of the game. The way I envision this is by going to various places on Endor and possibly even the Death Star, where you can interact with tears in the Force, much like you can in Jedi Survivor or Fallen Order. This would allow you to face off against the various masters of the 7 different lightsaber combat forms, thus allowing Sora, once he's defeated all of these masters, to achieve the rank of Jedi Knight. Now, these wouldn't be super bosses like the organization members though. Probably the last 4 or 3 would be endgame type bosses that would require a higher level, but it wouldn't require the same level of skill as the data organization members. But hey Square, if you're watching this right now and you want to make them rematchable as super bosses, I wouldn't say no. The first form of lightsaber combat is called Shicho, and it is the most basic form we have. Every youngling learns this as part of their training, so every Jedi we've ever seen in the movies, the shows, or the books all know this form of lightsaber combat, so finding a single user isn't hard, but picking one could be a little bit harder. Personally, I think it would be hilarious if we could just beat the crud out of a youngling that has no idea what kind of heat Sora is bringing to the table, but I also don't think that the mouse would agree to that, so I'm gonna go ahead and say we go with Master Kit Fisto. Wikipedia says that he is extremely skilled in Form 1, and I also thought that he was a pretty cool guy back when I was watching the movies as a kid, but I wouldn't be too upset if you guys wanted to replace him with somebody else. I see this as being part of the story in the Star Wars world to introduce you to the idea of these bosses and learning the various styles. Makashi, Form 2, a style of lightsaber combat primarily focused around lightsaber to lightsaber fighting. There really is no other option for this except for Count Dooku. He has a mastery over the form unlike anyone else we've seen in the Jedi Order, able to fight off 2 Jedi at the same time, was trained by Master Yoda, and can later hold his own against him. This would be a style where you would have to break through his combos in order to do damage, because Makashi is like an elegant dance, and unless you break through that dance, you're not going to be able to do any damage to him. I'm going to be honest with all of you. For most of these entries, there's really going to only be one option to pick, and it's the same with Form 3 Suresu. Obi-Wan Kenobi is the only choice. Much like Dooku, Obi-Wan perfected his form to its peak. He was able to fight General Grievous toe-to-toe, deflecting 4 different sabers at any time, blaster bolts. He was rumored to fight back against an entire droid army in his prime in the days of the Republic. He was the only man alive that was able to make Vader quake in his boots, and he killed Darth Maul twice. Obviously, you know why I care about that so much. This form primarily focuses on defense, so I imagine it being something closer to having to break through the guard in order to actually deal damage to Obi-Wan, sort of like how you have to break through Syax's Berserker gauge in order to actually deal damage to his health bar. Yoda, Form 4, Ataru. Need I say any more? He was Grand Master of the Jedi Order. Despite being well over 900 years old, he was still able to hold his own against Dooku and Palpatine. This form focuses primarily on the user being able to apply the Force to their physical self so they can make some insane movement options, and thus I see this being one of those where his combos could take you down to once more before you realize what was happening, and then you suddenly lose the fight. Like I said, this is going to be one of those bosses where you would need a higher level cap, and your blocking needs to be on point if you don't want to be down to once more within a single combo. Form 5, Jimso, is just gonna go to Anakin. If I wasn't 1000% sure Vader was gonna be a boss throughout the game, regardless if my little Daisy Doo dream actually comes true, I would have put him here. But it's gonna be Anakin. Gemso is this fusion between forms 2 and 3, and I think it would be a fight where you would really have to pay attention to revenge values and know the openings to attack, exploiting the hell out of them when you can. I do understand having two bosses fighting in the exact same form might be a little bit of a letdown, so if I was in charge of making these bosses, I would make Anakin have a higher level endgame where he is theoretically a peak Anakin. You know, he never lost to Obi-Wan on Mustafar, and thus he still has most of his limbs. He is much stronger in the Force, able to move faster than Vader. This boss would just be a stronger version of Vader than we would end up fighting in the game itself. Ahsoka is technically someone who primarily uses Form 5, however I do feel like we need some dual-wield lightsaber action in this game, and it is known that she's able to use the dual-wielding variant of Neiman, the 6th form of lightsaber combat. This form basically combines all of the previous mentioned forms into one, so it has a lot of the strengths, but also a lot of the weaknesses from all of the other forms. This would really require you to be able to balance all of the lessons you've learned from the last 5 bosses and combine that into a single fight. Another endgame leveled boss that could easily take you down to once more in the time it would take you to blink. If you wanted to, you could easily put Cal Kestis in this spot, since we know he also practices Neiman, and having him switch from single to dual to double blade mid-fight would be amazing. Personally, I would still prefer Ahsoka, but I really couldn't deny that I would fangirl if I saw Cal in KH4. Finally, the 7th and final form of lightsaber combat, the forbidden style known as Juyo. This is a very aggressive and unpredictable fighting style that, surprise surprise, is used by the one and only Darth Maul. I envision this style being close to Makashi, except the dance that you're trying to do is the tango, waltz, and tap dancing all at the same time. Much like the True Darkness, or I mean Vanitas, this boss would be very chaotic in its combo strings, where it's difficult to tell if it's going to keep going or if he'll attack you once and then back off. Something that'll really keep you on your feet, you know, throughout the entire fight. It would also be really cool to have Maul switch between a single blade and double blade throughout the fight. Not in a Tartaka way, but in a confusing Sora on what he's about to do sort of way. You could also put Mace Windu into this position since he knows a variant of Juyo called Vapad, but again, the whole point of this video is to have Sora fight Maul, so I'm gonna keep him here. If you want to put Mace Windu, go for it. Well guys, that is my proposed way of introducing the Jedi Trials into Kingdom Hearts 4. Is this how you would have implemented the trials yourself? What would you change? Is there anyone you would have switched out? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that generic YouTube stuff, and let your heart be your guiding key. I'll see y'all next time.